Welcome to the Apotheosis of You, the show that empowers entrepreneurs by bridging the gap between knowledge and action.
We're your hosts, Sal and Saida, and on today's video, we will review step 14 of Tai Lopez's 67 steps.
Tai Lopez has been a wonderful mentor. He has amassed a huge library of books that he has read on a daily basis, has done a TED Talk in Mastermind with some of the greatest minds on the face of the planet, and he has distilled all of that knowledge into 67 steps or 67 frameworks to what he calls the good life. We are going through each of these steps, giving you guys the highlights, the takeaway points to elevate your life and get closer to the apotheosis or the best version of yourself. We are currently on step 14, which is called the Shaolin monk and touching an electric fence. Why everything is your fault.
So Tai Lopez opens up this topic about him being in martial arts for a long time, and he was taught by this Shaolin monk that was in America. I think his name was Brad, and his teacher, Brad's teacher, once told him, if you are 30 years old and you get into a fight and you lose the fight, then it's your fault for not training or not starting to train when you were 5 years old.
Preparation is the main topic that he's alluding to there, that Shaolin monks start preparing for, because some things you will face in life, some things you can start getting ready for much earlier.
That is the mentality that Shaolin monks have. Everything that happens to you is your fault. And so he was saying that if you're not tough enough, if you can't defend yourself, then it's your fault for not training for all these years.
Seems harsh, but this also applies to so many other areas of our lives. We know that at some point in our lives, maybe we'll face physical confrontation. We should have started preparing earlier. We know that at some point in our lives, we're going to face some financial difficulties. We should start preparing for that earlier. If we can see that our job or our industry is facing some dilemmas of being outsourced or being automated through the rise of computers, then we should start preparing for that and not just be a deer in the headlights just waiting for it to come and obliviate us. Also, we should be prepared if we see signs of anything, mistrust, a business relationship that's slowly beginning to fade, stuff like that, that if we're seeing these signs and we're not preparing, it is our fault. And I think you once saw a t-shirt in the TEDx event that we went to see Grant Cardone. What did it say on the shirt?
It said everything is my fault, and at that time I didn't really understand what it meant, but then last episode I think we spoke about it. Sal has actually helped me to understand it. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime. That's what we're here for. Is that
so he says here, if the Shaolin monk is correct and everything is our fault, if we aren't prepared for it, then how prepared are we? How many tools do we have in our tool belt? For example, the soft skills are charisma, influence, removal of procrastination, social skills, thank you. And then hard skills, becoming a surgeon, becoming an accountant, a real estate agent, martial art, anything. So Tai also compares his rich friends versus poor friends, and he says that the rich friends have a lot more tools in their tool belt, rather than the poor friends. Poor friends have a couple of skills that they know.
That's very powerful to add more of these skills and tools onto our tool belt. As you know, Batman is who he is because of his tool belt, and so we are the products of the different tools that we have. And some of them, like the soft skills, I find extremely important. Not just for example, accountants, right? A very strong hard skills, or mechanic, very strong hard skill to have. But if you don't have the interpersonal skills of how to talk to your peers, how to talk to your superiors, then you're gonna suffer. So those are some of the soft skills integrated with the hard skills. Let's build up our skill sets. That's actually how this show began, is wanting to share everything that we're learning to spread the building up of skills that we can all utilize to better ourselves and better our lives. Some of the other things that he talks about is a wonderful story of what he has learned about a concept called, if you don't have it, and this was said by Joel Salatin, one of Ty's mentors, if you don't have it in your head, you're going to have it in your heels. What he means by that is, if you don't have the knowledge, you're going to have the sweat equity or the effort to make that happen. And there's a great story of a fence, electric fence, and how Ty learned this lesson, right?
Yeah, so Ty Lopez, he was getting ready to go with Joe Saladin and do something, and Joel asked him to bring a couple of electric fences, a couple of knobs, and some other things. And then when they get to the destination, and Joel asks him, where are the stuff? Where are the things that I asked you to bring? He was like, oh, damn it, I forgot. So Joel Salatin says, well, Ty, if you don't have it in your head, then have it in your heel. So Ty, he had to walk a mile back, take the things, and bring it back a mile again, walk another mile, just to just because he didn't have 30 seconds to double check and see if he brought the stuff in his backpack.
That's very true. Speaking of forgetting things in your backpack, I remember when I forgot an important flash drive that cost me a lot more time. If I had just spent an extra 30 seconds to look to make sure I had this important thing in there, it would have saved a lot. So by having in your head of remembering these sorts of things, you avoid the cost of paying for them through the sweat equity and the effort. You can reduce this heel pain that he calls by preparing. Heel pain is the pain of having to going to the office and realizing you forgot something important and having to go back home and come back to the office. If you don't prepare, it's going to hurt. And that's very, very true. There's a wonderful story about ants and a grasshopper. During the fall season, the ants were scurrying to gather food, whereas the grasshopper was fiddling and playing his musical instrument, and he was not preparing for the winter. And when winter hit, he was left outside with very little shelter and food, whereas the ants were very, very much prepared. So let us prepare for those things when times are good. What are some of the things that we can
also
prepare for?
He talks about this guy. His name is Louis Zamperini.
Oh yeah.
So he crashed in a plane, and he had a life raft where he was staying for 40 days. 47 days. And there were Japanese snipers that came and were shooting at them, and he had to dive deep so the bullets don't hit him. There were sharks there. He didn't have any food. So he has survived and lived for 47 days without any comfort. And why he could do that was because he was prepared. He had a muscle mass, and he was prepared with his breath, and
very important about the breath. He was actually he trained himself to be able to hold his breath much longer than what normal people can do. He was mentally prepared because the psychology of what it takes to survive on a raft for 47 days while great white sharks are chasing you and surrounding the raft, and there's other people on the raft going crazy. He definitely held it together. And by the way, that story got turned into the movie called Unbroken,
Yeah.
directed by Angelina Jolie. So very powerful, and it is based on a true story.
He has lost 100 pounds, and he was so skinny, but the muscle mass, all the preparation that he has done for himself was worth a while. Everybody else have died. He was the only survivor.
It's
just because he was prepared.
Preparation is the key to so much, because if you are meeting an opportunity in your life but you're not prepared, it's going to pass you by. So I think Oprah said that luck is when opportunity meets chance. So or when preparation meets opportunity, that makes more sense, because you're prepared and you meet the opportunity. That is called luck. So you have to be prepared for that. Ty talks about people having this positive thinking without doing preparation is quite useless, as well as he said that preparation is more important than positive thinking, but both are required for your overall success. People can't be overly optimistic, and they can't be overly pessimistic in preparation. So you can't be too optimistic and say, oh, this is not going to happen, I don't need to prepare. Or they can't be too pessimistic and try to prepare for things that they can't prepare for.
Yeah, John Wooden, he said, prepare for the dark day, always be prepared. Also, Charlie Munger said, I lived my life preparing for the worst day, and I am happy for it. Meaning, he was always doing the things that are hard right now to make it easier later on, for it to be easier later on, and he's happy for it.
That's when you face that hard day, that dark day, and that preparation comes into play, it would have all been worth it, as it has been for Zamparelli. He has faced 47 of those dark days, and he has survived all of them for that. Now, that may seem that the lack of positive thinking or not too much positive thinking and not too much pessimistic thinking may seem a bit contradictory, but what Ty said was that there's a balance between the two, and that balance is something that Aristotle, the philosopher, talks about. So a balance between appropriate preparation for things that you can predict, such as health, wealth, relationships, things that may be happening in your career, anything that you see a sign of distress in, you can prepare for those things. And there's things that you can't prepare for, whether it be things that are completely out of your control. Like you were saying that the dinosaurs, if they did go extinct from the asteroids, that's something that they couldn't have prepared for. But the things you can, you definitely should.
Also, he says, prepare for the worst when it's easy. He uses an analogy, Ty. He says that saving money when you have money versus trying to save when you don't have money is way easier.
That's a quote by Lao Tzu, one of the greatest philosophers and generals of war. He says, prepare for what is difficult when it is easy.
Easy, yeah.
And
also he says, lift weights while you're young, while you can lift them. Save money, as we said earlier. What else would you say to prepare for? That is health-wise and financial.
I would say relationship-wise. You can prepare a great deal for interpersonal skills. And one very strong way that Ty talks about preparing is by reading books. Mm-hmm. And books on health, books on wealth, books on relationships, not only your romantic relationship, but also relationships with other people. One of the greatest is How to Win Friends and Influence People.
I like that book.
Very powerful. I've gone through it over 10 times, and I need to review it again. It is one of the most impactful books that will reshape your life. And so those skills are extremely important in building yourself up. He talks about starting these things very early in life. Preparation, you can always start that earlier. He talks about saving when you're very young. And if you have not done that, are you asking your kids to save? Are you teaching them how to save? And he talks about the world that we're living in is a world in which the blind parents are leading blind kids. It's very dark, pun intended.
Yeah, blind leading the blind, or zombies chasing mirage, he also called them.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
so,
he said that.
Well, back to what Charlie Munger said about spending his whole life preparing for tomorrow to be a bad day and him being happier for it, is a mentality in which he's not fixating on the negative, but he is rather preparing to fix it. So don't fixate on the negative, fix it. Any pain points in your life, if you are dealing with a relationship issue, if you're dealing with a financial issue, as opposed to brooding in that misery, fixating in that negative, he talks about fixing it. Ty says that the only thing that is guaranteed is not death and taxes, but rather change. And that is very, very true in this context, because we are like on a escalator, he talks about, right?
Yeah.
Going through time, up through time.
Life is like an escalator going up, and you can't go back, right?
So again, change is the only constant, and preparation is the key to those change. Keep in mind the principle of that 30 seconds to recheck your work, because it will save you a lot of headache, a lot of, if you guys have seen the Pursuit of Happiness movie, I remember the scene came to mind when there was an important entrance exam into the firm, and Will Smith character who is, or the character of Chris Gardner, who was played by Will Smith, when he was done with the test, he went into the elevator, and another student went into the elevator, and then Will asked, "What did you think about the question on the back?" And the guy was like, "Wait, there was a question on the back of the paper?"
So did you finish the whole thing, or you have to go somewhere?
I have to go somewhere. But I finished the whole thing, too.
Oh, good.
You?
Yeah.
How'd you feel about the graphs?
Easy.
I struggled with the essay question on the back. What did you write?
Essay question?
On the back.
If he had taken a few extra seconds to see if there was anything on the back, it could have saved him, a career or whatnot. It helps to be a bit paranoid about making sure that you have these things. I remember when I used to go to school, I checked maybe 2 or 3 times if I had my homework in my backpack, because I didn't want to go to school and then it not being there. Benjamin Franklin says something. Oh, but by the way, before Benjamin Franklin, when we think about how amazing a character like James Bond is, right? He's very on point. The reason for that is because he has mastered what is the preparation of what he needs on the day-to-day operations that he does, and so that preparedness can really come in handy as we see it on the big screen. He seems like a cool, calm, collected person because of his preparation. Benjamin Franklin says, "Do not put off for tomorrow what you can do today." That is very, very important. That kills or stifles procrastination. Mm-hmm. Because tomorrow is always in the future. Today is all that we will have. Is every day will be today. If you really want to prepare, as I mentioned, read and process those information.
He also asks us question like, what can I do to better prepare for my tomorrow? What can I do to prepare for a guaranteed biological, financial, social, personal crises that could arise over the next week?
That's very true. Things, and we may prepare for some things that are even greater in the distance, such as working out, because if we fall into a situation where we needed to work out months or years in advance, as it said, you don't fix a leaky roof when it's raining.
Yeah.
You fix it when it's sunny out.
Exactly. For example, what could you do to prepare for a guaranteed biological crisis? For health, for example, all the diseases come from storing extra fat on your belly. So how do you prevent that? By working out regularly and eating healthy, right? For financial crisis, means saving money, right? When it's easy, investing, reinvesting, compounding.
Exactly.
For social, try to get friends, be around people, right?
If you have a wide network of friends, it's like having a safety net. It's like having a entire Rolodex of people that, based on whatever need you have someone in your Rolodex that can guide you and help you in that situation. If you don't yet have a large Rolodex, definitely do begin to socialize more. And if you don't know how to socialize, definitely begin to read more to learn how to socialize, to get more friends and build a larger network. I found this very interesting, so I had to jot this down. Has anyone ever said that their life has gotten worse since they started reading books?
No.
So that should point out to us that reading only helps to elevate our skill sets and our valuation of things. The question that we want to leave you with is, what is a primary example of much pain in your heel? An area that we can prepare or improve our preparation in money, health, finances, relationship. What are some areas that we can do more to prepare for a darker storm? For example, in my case scenario, I am preparing for another recession. I'm preparing for another economic meltdown by building up my capital right now to be ready for whatever crisis that may come. I am like the ant in the ant and grasshopper situation. I know that it will not always be the clear skies and clouds. The dark clouds will come just as it has in 2008. So prepare when times are good. And if you want to watch the full episode of Ty Lopez breaking down step 14, make sure to get the full 67 steps that provides over 67 hours worth of valuable content, all for $67, life-changing information. And also, based on these episodes, we do a live Facebook where we ask you questions and we do giveaways based on who got the most questions correct. If you want to participate in that, make sure to like us on Facebook at Apotheosis of You, or click the link in the description, and feel free to subscribe to this YouTube channel as we'll be pushing more content on here. So stay in touch and we will catch you on the next episode.
Good night.